Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. And love seeing all the chat. Welcome. My name is Katie Gideon. I will be the on-camera facilitator for this social, and I want to give a huge shout out to my co-facilitator, who you will see in the chat, Maya. And so we are happy to set up for May. And I already saw, I can't believe it's May. I can't believe we've already reached that point. It seems wild. I feel like the days go by so slow, but the months and weeks go by so fast. And I love seeing all of the bolder colors. I agree. Even when I got the journal, I was like, oh, these are some bright colors, and I love it. And I love seeing already some folks in the app that are sharing their pages are embracing kind of those brighter, bolder colors. So it's a really great combination. So as I feel like embracing this month's theme, kind of lean into some of those things that are already there, that are already incorporated. And I think it'll be really fun. Welcome to all of our returning socialers. I love seeing all of you in the chat, greeting you all kind of by name, and really excited to kind of just check in with each of you at this social, kind of that idea. But I saw that there was one new person, Danielle. Welcome. So if you are new and you want to share with the larger Silk and Sonder fam, just double check that the chat is set to everyone. For hosts and panelists, that comes just to myself and Maya. So we're always happy to help that direction. But if you want, usually everyone wants like other people's advice as well. So just double check that it gets set to everyone. And again, if you are new, these can be a little bit of a sensory overload. Just in a sense of you're going to want to work on your journal, you're going to want to catch up with the chat, you're going to want to look at the slides, you're going to want to listen to the music, you're going to want to listen to me. So if it becomes a little too much, just remember you can mute the chat, you can mute me, you can mute the music, you can maybe put your journal aside and come back to it, or you can kind of use this time for whatever is going to suit you the best. But I would always say definitely have those phones handy, or if you're on your laptop, the screen grab options. And if we ever need to go back to a different section, let us know and we will make it work. And also, usually with a new month, we get some folks that don't quite have the journal yet. Don't worry, you can take notes with that. Grab your, legal pads, your post-it notes, any of those things to kind of get that idea. So you're certainly welcome to join us as we go. We'll provide the visuals of those examples and the page numbers as we go. But as always, be kind and courteous to yourself and others. No promotions or spam. Respect everyone's privacy. No hate speech or bullying. Limit repetitive product and accessory questions. Redirect customer care inquiries to our team, hello@silkandsonder.com. While Maya and I have some information, the headquarters team has way more information and they will be far more helpful than we will. And then, as always, Sonder Socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. What I love about the concept of Sonder is that people are the informal definition is that people are kind of living these very vivid, unique lives, and you don't really know what everybody is going through. And that's what kind of makes it a little bit of this like kind of magical interaction. But again, keeping that in mind, you may be here to celebrate and do all these amazing things, and we welcome that and we're excited for that. But then on the other side, there may be someone who maybe didn't have a great week, didn't have a great month, isn't having a great day, and us also, again, well and good, but this should not be triggering to anybody. It should not be triggering to you. So if you need to set up some of those mental barriers, mental boundaries, please do so, because really we want you to leave with some, optimism, inspiration, and how we're going to tackle this next month. And again, this month's theme is now simplicity, which I genuinely think is a really good transition from our April theme, which was authenticity. So now we're overlaying kind of a way to demonstrate our authentic selves, and now almost giving ourselves that gentle reminder of maybe embracing some simplicity along the way. So I came across these two quotes, and I loved kind of the different ideas that they suggest is that simplicity is not a simple thing. I feel like that's another one of those of kind of stating the obvious. And I feel like there are so many times that I hear something like that in my day to day that I couldn't help but pull this and just kind of chuckle a little bit, where it's like, sometimes you want to make things simple, but you really make it more complicated. So just that friendly reminder is we get it. It's not as easy of a concept as we like to think it is. Going through the steps and the motions can be tricky. So if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, trying to kind of embrace this theme or think of this thing, just keep that in mind. It's not always going to be simple, and that's okay. But then I liked this other idea because, again, I come from science background, analytical type, and I loved the idea that simplicity is about subtracting the obvious and adding the meaningful. So, again, it plays off that simplicity is not a simple thing, but really sometimes the simplicity component is removing some of those things that, obviously I don't need this. I don't need to do that. I don't need this energy. I don't need this person. I don't need this relationship. And then adding those ideas into something more meaningful. So by, taking away something or starting at the basics, and then you can add in some of those things that really helps with your authenticity. It also helps with your vitality, kind of connecting at least, this quarter's themes together. So again, thinking of it is like I said, I think of it as a fun equation. I'm not an equation person, but if I can keep defining it this way, I feel a little bit better about it. And so, with that kind of in mind, I do always like to get inspiration from Mayha's letter, which can be found on page 2. And really, the things that I liked about it was, again, this is an opportunity to kind of step back and focus again on that less, not more. We don't need to live that minimalist life. We just need to start again, maybe replacing some of those things, as in the previous quote, with some of the more meaningful things. And then the idea of creating space for joy, clarity, and purpose, which is embracing that if you remove some of these obvious things, you now have time to embrace a little bit more of those things that bring you joy, bring you clarity, bring you purpose, as you again build from previous last month with that authenticity. Yes, Brenda, love it. To think you live the maximalist simple life because again, I don't consider myself a minimalist style person. That's not my furniture style, that's not my clothing style. But being able to think again of like focusing more of my efforts on the things that make me happier is kind of that way to embrace simplicity. And so our agenda for today is we're going to start with that acrostic poem or a version of the acrostic poem. If the acrostic poem isn't for you, then we're going to spend some time reflecting on April, setting up our May intentions, and then those mood and habit trackers. So, with the acrostic poem, we're going to play with words. So, turn to a fresh page in your journal as this one is not printed. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And we're going to, you can associate 10 different words or phrases that make you think of simplicity. And so you're going to write simplicity down the left-hand side, one letter at a time. And really, the best way to do this is to not necessarily filter yourself, just to kind of do a little bit of a, excuse me, brain dump. And you can do this as like one word, couple sentences, maybe a sets of words. Again, the really elegant poem. And don't think that you're restricted to just using the first letter of each of those. Maybe there are three I's. I always find it really tricky when there are the same letter multiple times. So maybe the first I, you start with that one. Maybe your second and third one are I's that are buried in the first word that doesn't start necessarily with it. So there are no rules and there are no right or wrong way to kind of come up with these acrostic poems. So this is what that blank page should look like, right? Simplicity on the left. Or you can use that notes section on page 1. Simplicity works quite well there as well. And I am not an expense tracker person. I never use the expense tracker. It's usually one of the first things that I repurpose. And because I did my math, there are 30 lines and there are 10 letters in simplicity. So if you use 3 lines per letter, simplicity works very well in that monthly expense tracker. And again, for some inspiration, I brought in the synonyms, which those lovely pigeons are helping out with. And again, the definition, kind of the traditional definition there for just some thoughts on kind of what simplicity is. Because I feel like when I did search for synonyms and those things, they're kind of all over the place. And I found that a little tricky. So I tried to kind of help out as much as I could. And then again, fully aware if the acrostic poem is not for you. You can certainly write the letter saying bye to April and hello to May. I've got a couple examples on the right, not for April to May, but for some of the previous months. Or you can do the simplicity definition on page 3, what it means to you. My example is actually the one on the left. I use the digital version of the journal, so I was able to write in with somewhat of a bolder color. Blue's more my style. So you can maybe fill out that section. Or you can also kind of think about the small moments that help you slow down. Maybe what makes you think about their simplicity. So you can kind of use it a little bit more as like a prose idea instead of just kind of what I would consider the traditional bullet style of a poem. If prose, long form is more your style, you can do it that way. So I'm going to stop talking. I would love to hear in the chat if you wish to share kind of your thoughts on simplicity, how it's maybe a potentially a good build from the previous months, or is it going to be kind of a standalone theme for you? But would certainly love to see that. Like I said, we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Really, for the acrostic poems, I certainly, in the past, have used AI options just to kind of give me a little bit more inspiration. And I did go down that track a little bit earlier, but they were really complicated. I was like, it's ironic that these simplistic acrostic poems were very complicated. So that's when I went back to kind of my roots, and I was like, no, I need a simple acrostic poem to represent simplicity. So again, I always think that's hilarious when, some things that potentially can be there to help you or provide inspiration actually make it more complicated. So I was like, oh, all of the metaphors that are being created, which is this teeny tiny exercise. But thank you everybody for sharing. Loved seeing some of the inspiration in the chat, kind of around their thoughts about it. And don't worry if you couldn't come up with something. What's great about this is an exercise you can always kind of come back to throughout the month. Same thing with we've got about give or take 5 weeks in May. So again, 5 divided by 10. You can maybe do 2 letters per week as you kind of revisit that. Um, but again, it is just something to kind of start getting us in the mood, in the mode to work on this because it can be early in some places. And we always like to just kind of what are our initial thoughts and feelings towards the theme? And then if you come to the weekly setups, we dive a little bit deeper into the theme with the mind maps, which again, not something printed in the journal, that you can then kind of see if your relationship, thought process, gut instinct when it comes to these words kind of changes a little bit. And so you can kind of feel a little bit more of that transformation just with the relation to the particular themes that I think is really a side thing that's kind of become magical about the socials and a little bit slightly different than just the journal exercises. And then again, always options to do other things. So if you do something a little bit different, we would love to hear about it in the app. Again, for any type of inspiration, because again, fully aware, I never considered myself a poet. The acrostic poem, again, fine. I don't get nearly as much satisfaction as some of the other exercises that we do, but I always like to challenge myself. So now we're going to move into the monthly planner portion of this. So you're going to turn to page 8 and 9 in your May journal, and we're going to start with April reflections. And this is a really, I again, I feel like it adds to the simplicity theme, just in the simplicity of being able to reflect on the previous month. The idea that you can use this opportunity to celebrate those wins, something that was made you smile, made you happy, the accomplishment, acknowledge, excuse me, those challenges, something that didn't get so well, and just being able to kind of write those down, put them out into the universe, and you can either carry some of that information with you into the next month as we set up our intentions, or you can at leave it at the door, leave it at the April door. And you can then always agree to look at the favorite moments because I like the idea of, you don't have to do any of this alone. Consider this an open book, a test, an open book assignment, even though there are no due dates, there are no deadlines, but you can use all of those resources to help you. And a lot of times we do take pictures of the favorite moments that we have. And then what I really like about this particular page that I didn't quite realize it until much later in my Silk and Sonder journey was the start, stop, and continue idea. And the fact that you can kind of reframe a lot of these wins, challenges, and favorite moments into embracing how you can start doing some of these things to maybe minimize some of those reoccurring challenges. Maybe you can stop doing some of those things so that you can continue to have different wins, continue to embrace some of those favorite moments, or stop some of those things that are going to be more of a challenge for you, or then embracing some of those things to continue. How can you continue to feed those wins, continue to embrace those favorite moments, all of those ideas there. And so again, here are some great examples. I like the power of asking yourself why. So if you want to start, stop, and continue something, what is the why? And spending that just like extra time to kind of really dig into that, I think is great because then you can tie those directly into the hows. And we can turn those hows into actionable steps with our habit trackers. So you can kind of knit all of these sections together to help you set your intentions pages, help you with that habit tracker to help support that, and then pull all of those ideas into your weekly setup pages as you go throughout the month. But again, as a reminder, these can be anything. These can be kind of big, lofty ideas. These can be big, squishy ideas, or these can be very specific, kind of bucket style or to-do lists almost. And then maybe again, it's stickers. We love stickers here. So maybe stickers are the way to go. Maybe that's the best summary. For me, a lot of it is the simple and small steps forward. Stop procrastinating and delaying those things, just get it done. But then also giving myself that friendly reminder to have honest expectations around realistic changes. And then the one at the bottom, again, is a little bit zoomed in on how they're going to incorporate some of these specific things. So they want to start a new morning routine, how they're going to incorporate those different things into the weekly plans. Same thing with what they're going to stop and continue. So you can definitely zoom in, zoom out. You're going to hear me say that a lot. I work with a lot of digital mapping, and it always just adds perspective. Sometimes you maybe are a little stuck because you're maybe at the wrong zoom level. So maybe you need to take another step down to take a look at it, or maybe take a step up to see a different picture or perspective, because sometimes attitude is everything, and mentality, I think, can go pretty far with these. So I'm going to stop talking. Going to give you some time to work on your April reflections, but would love to celebrate those wins, acknowledge those challenges, and figure out how we're going to set up our intentions with our start, stop, and continue ideas. See you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I appreciate seeing all of the opportunities to just reflect on April, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And maybe again, finding just even a little bit of inspiration to either take into May or again, maybe we just need to leave it all in April. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. We are now going to move over to page 9 in your April or sorry, May journal. And this is where we can set up our intentions. And so there are set categories with spiritual health, personal life, physical health, key relationships, money management, and professional goals. But as always, the best way to sometimes approach these pages is what do you need? What do you need for May? What do you need for your next step in your self care journey? What do you need to embrace simplicity? And so you can always change some of those. So you can always come back to this idea of simplicity. So I set your intentions. So maybe again, we'll show some examples, but again, you can focus on the self-love, self-talk, self-care. You can use inspiration from songs or lyrics or quotes, manifestations, affirmations. Or again, maybe you want to ask yourself a question. How do you want this particular category to look through me? And you can kind of support yourself that way. Or as always, stickers, colors, images, anything that kind of helps you with that. And we also like to add a little bit of inspiration, maybe from the kind of national month, international month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. If you joined us at the exclusive with the Japanese Wisdom, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is coming up. And so the idea that we'll embrace that for our exclusives there. Military appreciation for all of our current active as well as veterans. Always great to have you. Same thing with meditation. Maybe that's how you want to simplify your life a little bit. Or you can always change some of these categories. Maybe instead of your personal life, you want to focus on a creative life, a simple life, home life, personal fun. Maybe your physical health, you want something a little bit more specific, mental health, heart health, brain health. Maybe you want to focus on a specific relationship. Maybe you have a specific money management goal or a different management goal. Or if professional goals usually implies a career or work type thing, and maybe you're in a different chapter in your life, and those are not the goals that you're looking at, so you can repurpose these. And so, as we said, a couple of examples, and I can't help but highlight the more and the less, since that was something that Meha brought up in her letter. So maybe this is an opportunity to focus again on subtracting the obvious and incorporating the more meaningful. So with that more or less idea, or you can always use the embrace the do and the let go, or as always, it is the time to rest. So again, I feel like it's the a little bit of the like mini marathon, which I always associate with summer. Again, I am biased because I'm a summer birthday, so the summers revolve around me and only me. And so this is the opportunity to take that little bit of a break before you hit those summer months. So maybe it's that duality of the movement versus the rest, but I always like the idea of thinking it in terms of an equation or a teeter-totter, a seesaw, that if you're going to come up with something that maybe isn't as fun, you need to definitely bring something that's going to make you happy. So that's where is the duality that'll cancel each other out. Saw that someone mentioned the sticky notes. Maybe you're not quite ready to commit to things, and that's perfectly fine, even though we do like to break up with perfection here. But maybe these are some of the ideas that you're toying with, or maybe what you need is steps to help you focus on a longer range goal. So you can always use the Post-its here to kind of give that inspiration and work through it as well. And again, the idea of embracing something and releasing something. And then the one on the right, a little bit, what do they want to feel in these particular areas, how they're going to work on it, and then adding in the habits so that then you can, maybe you've carried the start, stop, and continue with the working on and the how and the why. And now you've incorporated the habits that you then want to carry over into your habit tracker or into your weekly habits and activities on those pages. And then again, sometimes embracing the simplicity, where we know simplicity is not always simple, but maybe it's an opportunity to just have fun with the stickers or the doodles. As we know, pictures can be worth 1,000 words. So maybe that's your area of inspiration. The digital version is the one on the right with just kind of those ideas there that you don't have to fill the space. So maybe simplicity is embracing a little bit more of that white space. White space makes me panic because I feel like I need to add more. So even I'm trying to edit myself a little bit as I do that. And then maybe you want to focus on something specific. The one on the left, they wanted on reduce stress. So everything around it, as you can see, they've swapped all of the categories. They've created what they want to do with a manifestation or a statement, and then how they're going to do that. So that's almost like a complete refresh, repurpose. Same thing with the one on the right. I always bring this up just because I love it and I'm trying to figure out a way to update it, find an updated version for it. And so I'm toying with the idea. I may turn it into cakes for June because June is my birthday. So I may turn them into manifestation cakes so that when I blow out the candles for those cakes, I get that. But I like the idea of the taking ownership and the intentional almost manifestation, instead of asking yourself how you're going to do this, I am going to do this. Oh, Heather, love it. So Heather's was the one on the left with the reducing stress. And again, it looks like it works. So hopefully I didn't um, project too much of the intention there with my explanation of it because I thought it was really great. So I'm going to give you guys some time to work on your intentions. Would love to hear how you're embracing the intentions. Are you incorporating something new? Is this kind of your this is that foundation that doesn't change too much from month to month. Love the idea of that, but I'm going to give you some time to work on this, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Appreciated seeing all the ways that you were potentially going to embrace this month's theme or incorporating it that way. And obviously, a couple of you, we incorporated your examples, which I love to see. I did see that someone mentioned that they tend to struggle with this section, and honestly, I've struggled with this page in the past as well. And sometimes it can always be a little bit strange asking yourself what you need. And sometimes maybe what you need is a break from a page like this or something like that, where it's, sometimes what you need is to do every single section as listed, as written. Sometimes you need to do every single section with a completely repurposed idea through a different lens, through a different connection point. And sometimes really what you need is to step away from the page, step away from the section. And I know there have definitely been times that I have stepped away from this page. I've also stepped away from the mood tracker coming up. And that's just sometimes what I need, or where I just need to refocus and maybe want to work on something else. So I still like, if it's embracing that theme of simplicity of, more or less of something. So the idea that yes, we spend this time, yes, we people have these amazing examples, but if it really isn't something that you need or something that you feel like will be helpful, you can not do it, believe it or not. I know sometimes it's just reframing and giving yourself permission to do that, which always seems a little bit weird. And same thing with, I've completely ripped this page out of my journals in the past, just because, again, when you flip it over, the mood tracker's on the other side. So that page just wasn't what I needed, and I've removed it so that I don't dwell on it or make myself feel bad about it. But we are going to move into those mood trackers, and obviously keep working on everything at your particular pace. Keep sharing that in the chat. This is time that you've set aside for yourself. And so you can certainly incorporate whatever you want in that process as we move forward. Just have to be realistic about time. So we've got our mood tracker, which is on page 10 in your May journal. And I'm not going to stumble over it this time because it's either team hexagons or team circles. This month we have team circles. And so for those people that get excited about the circles, it is your month. And so the opportunity to work on the mood tracker, you can choose a couple potentially negative or the not so great feelings, maybe a neutral feeling and then some positive feelings. Maybe you want to focus on the theme of simplicity. Or again, you can always fill in every emotion that comes up for the day or the one that is the strongest. And then again, we always encourage the stickers and the colored pencils, the doodles, the pens, because this is where I feel like the creativity certainly can take over with the visuals for some of these. And again, like I said, the mood tracker was really great. I feel like for me initially, understanding the kind of roller coaster of those, and I appreciated that. But now I think even I have moved a little bit more into the repurposing of this tracker, because it's another one of those that you can track multiple variables, which is great to kind of see if there's a correlation or any type of thing like that. If one has a cause and effect to the other. Or again, whatever specific healthcare journey you're on or self-care journey, maybe you want to focus a little bit more on anxiety or depression or the energy levels, or even just focus on something else. And don't worry, I'll come back to these slides, but this is our classic feelings wheel. So if you need some feeling inspirations, and then I like the graph format a little bit better. That's just my particular preference because I like the overlay of the energy and the feeling with the low and negative feelings versus the high positive. And I feel like the color coding of that is how I think about it in my head. But I tend to gravitate more to the cool tones, so the blues and the greens. So I don't know if that just means I'm a low energy person. I find that a little bit ironic, but I appreciate the coloration of this. And so sometimes I always gravitate towards that. And so, as mentioned, you can absolutely track those different emotions. The one at the top, joy, gratitude, content, stress, overwhelm, and frustration. And how many times they felt that during the day, or that which emotion they felt during the day. And same thing with the ability to include what days of the week. Do you hit your stress levels on a Sunday night because you're going back to work? And then you hit the, peaceful, happy because it's a Friday. I think it's always interesting to see that. And then someone was also tracking the potential for the panic attacks and maybe realizing again, you have data points from day to day, and sometimes we only remember the things that stand out. You don't remember every single day, every single thing that you felt. So being able to zoom out at the end of the month and realize, oh, I maybe only experienced this many panic attacks versus the ones that really stood out in your head. So again, same thing, acknowledging if you had a good day or a not so good day, how many good days did you have? And kind of then what percent of the month were good days. And then the emotions versus energy combination. And then maybe you want to focus on your physical care. So that's where those categories are. Maybe you want to focus on activities. So maybe you want to simplify some of those activities or embrace your hobbies. Maybe it's a mood boost tracker. So if you know you're feeling a little down, here are the different things that you can embrace and see how many you need to incorporate in a day. I noticed that again, someone had mentioned that they have kind of a hard time going back to the intentions page. I love setting yourself up for success. So, Hansel and Gretel laid out those breadcrumbs for a reason. And so maybe you want to track your intentions on this particular tracker where you check in with the key relationships, the physical goals, the professional goals, the money management, the emotional goals, the personal goals, physical goals. And so you can use that to then help you check in with your intentions and help pull those into the weekly setup pages as you go. Or again, maybe you just want to track energy levels. Where are you getting your energy? Is it a physical energy? Are you feeling that energy boost? Is it a mental boost? Are you on again specific healthcare journeys? So someone's using it as a food tracker, anxiety tracker, and then whether or not your kind of moods impact your productivity, you can overlay some of those. The one on the bottom right is Jennifer O, one of our other facilitators. She turned it into a book tracker. And so I feel like that's another one of those that you can do it. A couple different versions of the mood tracker, and then the check-ins, because with the circle page, if you do the top line, that can be a morning check-in. The line on the side could be a midday check-in, and then the bottom circle line would be the evening check-in. So you can kind of ask yourself how you feel each day at those three check-in points. I've done that in the past and realized not only the roller coaster of the month that I've had, but the roller coaster I have during the day. And then another one of those completely repurposing, Leanne Swanson. This is where she puts her business habits, just because that fit this particular tracker. I know we have a habits. She's got a separate batch of habits, but she's growing her own small business. So it was a way for her to repurpose this to help include some of those business habits that she needed to incorporate. And then you've got the mood tracker with creativity, the stress tracker. You can incorporate that with tools of how to de-escalate some of those stressful situations. And then you've got a spending tracker, which I know some people like to snag that one, a workout tracker. Again, that self-care tracker, embracing those different types of rest. And then when I was talking about the tough day versus a great day, you can track that kind of scale. And again, just because these are scaled like this, you can come up with your own scale. But sometimes it's really nice to kind of step back for a month to see how many days would you consider a tough day or would consider a great day. And that can maybe impact how you think of that month, where maybe you had one really, really big tough day. So you just assume that the previous month was a wash, and then realizing that actually you had quite a few other different types of days, and you wouldn't quite generalize that it was a tough month because of a couple tough days. So I am going to stop talking. Would love to hear your thoughts on the mood tracker. Are you repurposing it? Are you incorporating different things, all the ideas? And we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Loved seeing all of the repurposing ideas, especially embracing the theme, as well as again being able to kind of overlay a couple different combination of things. And I loved Peg's call out of, feeling a little bit off and needing to kind of go back, maybe changing up the emotions, but feeling a little off. And so going back to basics and the mood tracking this month. So love that, especially with, I feel like that goes in very much well with the theme of simplicity of, finding those small steps. How do you start over again? And that, again, similar to the exclusive event that Casey hosted with the idea of the very first step. What's the very first step when it comes to the whatever journey you are on? So now please join us on page 11. We are going to finish up with our habit tracker. And so, no, Casey's not new. She's one of our marketing folks. So any the time you see the Silk and Sonder Instagram post, that is Casey and all of her kind of team there. This was just something that she got to work on and she was excited and it was great. So for habits, you can focus on simplicity or you can pick a particular theme. I am a creature of habits, so I always include my previous habits, which are the same three habits for me. I want to move every single day, I want to journal every single day, and I want to read every day. And I've now incorporated fourth because, again, the seasonality here is find the sun every day. So those are four things that I want to do each and every day. I am not one to shake up my routine much. But it's still an idea that I want to make, and I make time and space for this. So the things that bring me joy and make me happy, I want to continue to make time and space for each of those things. So if you need some habit tracker ideas, here are some of those things there. I think obviously with it being meditation month as well, embracing some of those meditative ideas, the deep breaths, the daily rituals, the just enjoying the sun, taking that brief pause. But a couple other ways to do it is maybe you want to focus again on different quantifications of it. You can include the days of the week because maybe your habits for the weekdays look different than the weekends. Then also being giving yourself a little bit of grace when maybe something does happen that's unplanned. That's the one on the left that I appreciate. That unfortunately they did get COVID, which meant at that point habits are great, habits are lovely, but sometimes those are not what you need to get through any sort of illness or vacation, and those type of things. Maybe you want to be completely present for your vacation. I do have some vacation coming up in May, so I do have that week blocked off where I'm not going to track those things, but I already know movement is going to be there because it's tour. And then I always like to find those moments of, do I get up early to do some journaling? Do I do it late at night? When do I want to read? Those type of things. So incorporating that as I go. And then again, just the visuals. Just because there are all of those lines listed, you don't need to use them all. Instead of all seven, maybe it's just six things, five things, four things, three things, two things, one thing. The one on the right, that particular post was just the simplified geometric shapes, but look at how pretty it looks when you do that. So you can always include it there. And again, the acknowledgement of the weekends versus the weekdays. Maybe this is another thing. Maybe instead of tracking specific habits that you want to do each day, maybe this becomes like a journal habit tracker. So the person on the left included they wanted to do the dailies through the Silk and Sonder app, and that's the affirmation, the daily ritual, a goal, a reflection, then to acknowledge the gratitude log, to check in with those mood trackers or creativity trackers, and then check in with the weekly habits and goals on your weekly spread pages. So again, you can help yourself if you really need to spend some time and connect with your journal. The one on the right, I know is one of Bailey's, our other facilitator. And so she categorized, these are the five things she was going to focus on for the month. And then she included a list of what those specific things would include. So for the replenish habit, she has a list of those things that she could do to help replenish herself. Same thing with nourish and the physical care. So again, help herself by including some of those things that you can kind of pick from. And then maybe you want to embrace the particular theme. So maybe it's more of that mindset. What's the things that make you authentic? What are the things that make you happy? And kind of give yourself some space to celebrate those. And then again, maybe it is genuinely You've got very specific habits you want to do. You've got your daily step goals. You've got your food tracking. You've got a workout. You've got what time you want to go to bed, how much water you're drinking, and then realizing that you can include it this way. And I love that this person made the call out to the specific trips that they went on. And so again, maybe your habit looks different on your vacation. Maybe it looks the same, but the ability to make this pretty flexible, I think, is really great. And as again, I'm a sucker for the iconography. And so maybe one of your habits and activities this month is to embrace a bucket list item. And so many of these things, what I like about the bucket list is again, you're calling it something fun, something different, but a lot of it is maybe something that you're already doing. Maybe you have a spring DIY project. I have no green thumb. I kill everything when I plant it. But I always get excited because my parents love gardening. They are fantastic gardeners. They're great at it. And so I get invested. So, I didn't plant flowers or herbs on my porch, but I will absolutely take credit for the cheerleading that I did of my parents as they planted their things because I FaceTime and they'll take the phone outside and they'll show me all of the things, the hibiscus, the trees, the azaleas, so it's more of like I'm now invested with them either. I planted those things as well because I said it looks great. So being able to incorporate something kind of fun like that, or again, just something a little bit spontaneous. So I always like to say, let's add a bucket list item. So I'm going to give you some time to finish this up, play some songs, continue to work on all those pages. Let me know if I need to go back to some different slides, and we will see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. So, hopefully, you have got your habits all set out. Some of them can be obviously reused from previous months. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. But again, idea of just incorporating some of these bucket lists, which again, you'll see. And I know a lot of the other facilitators will incorporate these type of things into the setups as we go. And then I usually do cite the Instagram account that I follow because again, I went through just with everything going on, I went through a little bit of an Instagram purge. So why not find something that makes me happy? And these were two accounts that continue to make me happy. Same thing with a lot of the quotes and kind of fun pictures that I find throughout, usually author accounts on Instagram. So highly encourage you kind of make that transition, but it certainly makes me happy because they're great places for that. And then, as always, can you believe it? We're at the end. So, we would love to continue the conversation in the Silk and Sonder app. We would love to see your examples, all of those things you guys provide. Such inspiration, not only for me, but everybody in attendance. We love seeing all of those. And so we'd incorporate that. I know you've seen some of the references with Jenny. Jenny is that online AI personal coach, still again in beta mode. So if you have any thoughts or questions about it, please reach out. And same thing as we continue to go through it with some of the new technical issues. There's a new digital subscription option out that we're now incorporating some of the digital stickers. So all those things are coming through. So any feedback, definitely reach out to hello@silkandsonder.com. This is a copy of my playlist. Don't worry, I will include the link to the Spotify playlist there as well. Because yes, that Living on a Prayer was an amazing find in all of its mashup, stringed glory. So many things. And I see that a lot of folks will be attending the social tonight for the weekly setup with the team there. I hope to see you guys at future events. I cannot wait to set up and complete May. I can't believe it's almost May. It's wild. But thank you everybody for joining us. We hope to see you again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and a rest of your week. And as we continue to embrace the simplicity of this particular month and this season. So we'll see you soon. Bye.
I'm missing all the summer nights, running with the fireflies, dancing in the rain, counting every single plane that's flying by. It's not a place you go to, it's more a place you travel through. It doesn't look like much, but it's way more than enough. It fits me right. And you can take me far away, but you can never take this part of me. You can take me far away, but some things never change. When I see clouds, I see faces. When I see roads, I see places where we could go. When I meet strangers, I say hello. I come from where the wild, wild flowers grow. When I hear thunder, I sing along, 'cause I'm the daughter of where I'm from. A starlit sky will always guide me home. I come from where the wild, wild flowers grow. I miss my parents' living room.